Good morning, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is London Breed. I'm president of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, and I represent District 5 on the Board of Supervisors. This community, I grew up right across the street from here. Behind me are people from the community. Some of them will speak during this press conference. And behind them is some of the most important affordable housing that has been built in this district in some time. 98 senior units. 98. That's a lot of units. Before we go into, why we're here, I just want to talk specifically about Willie B. Kennedy Apartments and how over the years we have named so many of our new affordable housing specifically for seniors after some incredible African Americans. Mary Helen Roger Senior Homes, 100 units just down the street. George Davis Homes in the Bayview Hunters Point. Providence Senior Homes. And what's so significant about all of these developments named after African Americans is that African Americans have not been given a fair chance to actually have access to these units. You see, there's a lottery system. And in that lottery system, if you're organized with your community, then you put in thousands of applications. They can come from San Francisco, they can come from other parts of the country. And when you look at this population and the fact that we have a really low population in San Francisco in comparison to the larger numbers, less than 6%, there is no way that we will be able to compete and have access to these units. As we talk about the fact that there is a lack of work going into trying to preserve the African American population here in the city and county of San Francisco, we can't just talk about it and complain about it. We have to do something about it, and that's exactly what we did last year. We passed neighborhood preference legislation, and we said when we build units, we want 40% of those units to go to the people in that neighborhood. Yes. We want to give them a fair shot at having access to these units. There are people in this community that I see almost daily who are struggling to live here. They are homeless. They're sleeping on someone's couch. They're saying, "Supervisor, help me. I don't know what to do." And when these applications come out, sometimes they're rejected because they haven't completed the paperwork correctly. If you're living on the streets and you're struggling to live day to day, who has time to figure out how to complete an application? We are making it harder and harder for the folks who especially were born and raised here to access what we deserve, an opportunity, a fair opportunity to compete in and access. The community has been promised over and over again, we are going to build affordable housing. We need to build more affordable housing. Support this affordable housing project. But when the time comes for us to access it, all of a sudden, there are fair housing laws. There are all these obstacles. There's complicated applications. There's obstacles. There's tremendous obstacles. This, to me, is no different than what they tried to do to African Americans during the Civil Rights Movement when they denied our access to vote. So passing the right legislation to correct a wrong is what we did at the Board of Supervisors. And what we are trying to do is make sure that we don't continue to lose in this city. When we passed this legislation, we wanted to make sure that folks had a fair shot, and that's exactly what this is about. But I want to be clear. Neighborhood preference still exists. In fact, at the project at 55 Laguna, it's being currently used. 352 neighborhood preference applicants are in the pool as we speak for 55 Laguna. So when we build projects that have an on-site inclusionary of affordable housing, we will be able to provide a neighborhood preference. We are really fortunate that we passed that legislation to give folks in this neighborhood and other neighborhoods where affordable housing is built a fair shot at accessing those units. And I'm really excited to see the results of what happens as a result of that work. But clearly, we are not done. Clearly, HUD has saw fit to say providing a neighborhood preference will potentially create what they say, Reverend Brown, segregation. Segregation. What's happening now has already created segregation.
That's right.
What's happening with the lottery system now has created a form of segregation. When you look at the numbers of people who are homeless on our streets, you see a large percentage of African Americans, a large percentage of whites who are homeless on our streets. And when you look at the percentage of those categories, especially African Americans, and the affordable housing, less than 5% of those units, the units that we build, are actually going to the African American community. We have to change it. That's what we're here to talk about today, the change. That's what we're here to talk about today, the demand to do what's right, to correct a wrong. We are not done. We have to continue to call on our federal leaders to support us in this fight, to reach out to HUD, to make sure that they do what's necessary, to hold them accountable, to make sure that they understand the challenges of what we're dealing with right here in San Francisco. You see, New York, they've been doing neighborhood preference as far as they can remember for almost 40 years, since the late 1970s. Why? Why haven't we done that in San Francisco? Why haven't policymakers and housing right activists and other people who claim to care about these kinds of issues, why did this legislation not come to be before last year at the Board of Supervisors? It's beyond me. But now we are here and it is a new day. And we have to continue to fight to make sure that when HUD provides us, of course, with the subsidies we need long-term for the residents who are going to live here, with the support to build this affordable housing, we have to make it clear that we want to make sure folks have access to this affordable housing. People who live right across the street that I personally know. People like Adrienne Williams, who's here today, who's living with her daughter, who is a senior citizen, who works in this community every day, who works with kids every day, who does everything she can to change lives in this community. She deserves a fair shot at getting access to these units. That's what this is about. And I want to reiterate, the Neighborhood Preference Program is alive and kicking. And we're not going anywhere when it comes to federally subsidized units. We're going to continue to fight HUD. We're asking them to understand our pleas. I know the Mayor's Office of Housing, we've been working with them to try to push this forward. But most important, we're not going to take this lying down. So the reason why we're here today is to make sure the public knows neighborhood preference exists. And it exists and it will continue to exist for a lot of other federal subsidized projects all over the city. That's number one. Number two, we have got to get the word out. We have got to make sure that people apply. And Kathy Davis, who's going to be working with the Delta Sigma Theta sorority, is going to be hosting workshops where she is going to help people complete applications. She did it with her project that she helped build, the George Davis Senior Homes in the Bayview Hunters Point. Her team, named for her late husband who started that project, and she finished it. She went out there, she talked to residents, she got the applications in with her team of folks, and she made sure residents of the Bayview Hunters Point got into that project even though we were denied using neighborhood preference in that particular case. So we are going to roll up our sleeves and get to work. This is not over. We have got to make sure that when we see someone that we know, especially a senior, sadly living on our streets, we're going to hit the streets. We're going to help them complete applications. We're going to do everything we can. Folks you know who used to live here, who grew up here, who want housing in San Francisco, we have got to get the word out. People, seniors who are 62 years and older, have got to apply for this housing. they've got to apply. If they need help, Kathy is going to talk a little bit about what's available. At the end of the day, when the applications come out tomorrow, we have all got to roll up our sleeves and help one another get in an application. It's going to take a lot of work to make sure that we do everything we can to make sure this is really a diverse property. It really has the diversity of what San Francisco brags about on a regular basis. It really makes the difference for the community. So I need each and every person behind me to be a foot soldier in this effort. And so with that, I want to thank you all so much for coming and make it clear that we're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to try and get HUD to change its mind. But in the meantime, we still have work to do.
That's right.
And with that, I want to bring up the president of the NAACP, Dr. Amos Brown, to say a few words. He's been leading the charge around neighborhood preference, and he will basically come up and talk to us today.
Thank you, Madam President of our Board of Supervisors. My friends, I am very pleased to stand with Supervisor London Breed, Supervisor Malia Cohen, Ms. Kathy Davis, and I have also Vice President of the NAACP, Reverend Arnold Townsend, standing here with us, and other community leaders. To say this fight has been going on for some time. It didn't start just last night. For 2 years ago, the NAACP approached the leadership of our board in the personhood of Supervisor Breed and Supervisor Cohen to say the black community is dying in this town. The patient is bleeding, and we must do something to provide emergency care and intensive care to stop this hemorrhaging and loss of the black community in San Francisco. To their credit, they fought till this legislation was passed. It was done deliberatively. They gave great thought to it. They analyzed the data, and it is really most unfortunate, in fact, an insult to the efforts of the mayor, these supervisors, to right an egregious wrong. And that wrong was perpetrated against nobody but black people. Why, years ago, you had restricted covenants in this town that black folks could not get into certain places, like Pacific Heights, like Forest Hills. Even Willie Mays, celebrated ball player, could not get into Forest Hills. Even other star persons, stellar individuals, couldn't get into places. Even Jews bought homes in this town and sold them back to blacks as a compassionate act to try and right a wrong 50 years ago. The NAACP is going to fight this matter until hell freezes over, and then we're going to skate across and go to Washington, D.C. and get Mr. Velkaz, the deputy director whom we talked with yesterday. Wow. He didn't have a clue of what was going on. He was acting as a left-brain bureaucrat with no right brain also to show some compassion and love and concern about turning this egregious situation around. He did promise us on yesterday that he was going to be coming to San Francisco. But I want to end by saying NAACP is prepared to file an injunction to stop the riddle until we come to the common table, talk together, see each other face to face, and make sure that African Americans are part of this rainbow that San Francisco claims to be. San Francisco has been living a lie, but this mayor, this board of supervisors, have sought to tell the truth and to do the thing that would bring relief and justice to the African American community. You don't have a wrong, and in the face of a wrong, try to explain away why you can't do the right thing to turn that wrong around. And this is what this matter is about, and we are on solid ground. We are principled people, and we're only concerned about saying African Americans too are San Francisco.
That's right.
And we must be treated fairly, justly, and we must make up for lost time.
Yes.
We are deserving of reparations on this matter. For it's a sin and a shame that we have lost since 1970 nearly 60,000 African Americans. Shame, shame, shame on those who were part of a culture of neglect years ago that would permit one group to be the suffering group, and others are holding on, growing up, and getting the fat of the land.
Thank you, Reverend Brown. And now I want to bring up my partner in this effort on the Board of Supervisors.
Needless to say, it's been incredibly disheartening. And I stand with the community, and I want to communicate a very clear message that this is not the end, but this is the beginning. Anytime you're pioneering and stepping out there and doing something courageous, there are going to be people and there's going to be naysayers that fight you every step of the way. I think it's also critically important to highlight that although you have the African American leadership of San Francisco standing here before you, this is truly an issue that is embedded in the Latino community, in the Pacific Islander community, anyone that has grown up here in San Francisco and that has deep roots into the community and are facing the displacement pressures. Now, as a legislator, for the last several years, one of the things that I've learned is that legislation needs to be dynamic, and it needs to be created. We're not creating this legislation to be exclusive, but it's actually to help a segment of San Franciscans that have been the beneficiary of exclusionary practices. That's why we're here. That's why we're enraged. That's why we're standing up. That's why we are coming together and we're standing up and we're saying to HUD, take another look, reevaluate. We implore you to pay attention, because these policies that are in place are hurting people when they should be protecting people every step of the way. So to the fellow folks that are listening to this message, that are standing with me, I want you to be encouraged, because we are encouraged. We are going to stand strong, we are going to fight, and we are not going to give up. This is only the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. Now I'd like to bring up Kathy Davis. As I said, you know, the applications are opening tomorrow, and I want to make sure that we don't take this lying down, that we submit as many applications from this community as we possibly can, because that's what's going to also make the difference. So Kathy is going to be leading that effort the same way she led the effort at George Davis, and she'll talk just a little bit about exactly what she plans to do working with the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. They were incredible in working with the community to get those applications in so that they weren't rejected. So with that, Ms. Kathy Davis.
Thank you, and I just want to acknowledge the fact that we are standing right here in the Western Addition, where close to 30,000 people were removed during the redevelopment era, and here we are again looking at the lack of opportunity for a brand new project that was pretty much built on the backs of those people who have to leave. So it's my job as the executive director for Rosa Parks Senior Center and Western Addition Senior Center to have a place where people in the community can come and get assistance with their applications and get in the game. So we are going to be open at our Western Addition Senior Center at Turk and Fillmore 7 days a week from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. for people to come in and get their application assistance. We are going to be hitting the streets with the ground troops over here who are going to find everybody and anybody who lives in this neighborhood, who's interested in this property, Willie B. Kennedy was an icon in this neighborhood. Right now, she would be so incensed to see that a building with her name on it doesn't have some form of preference for people in the neighborhood. And we're talking about 40%. 60% is not going to be a preference for the neighborhood. So we need a slice of that pie for the seniors who have lived here for a very long time. So it's my job, my staff's job, to get out there and make sure that all these seniors know that this opportunity is here. And we're going to fight the fight. We're not giving up. HUD needs to get a grip and listen to the community, because we have been out there telling them what's going on for a long time, and we're not giving up. So we really want seniors to come to our centers. Right here, right behind Willie B. Kennedy is Rosa Parks Senior Center, and right down the street is Western Addition Senior Center, and we will be there to help any senior. The Deltas are helping us with volunteers to help seniors with those applications, and we will do everything we can for every senior in this neighborhood that wants to apply for this building. Thank you.
Thank you, and I also want to acknowledge that we have one of our school board members here. Shaman Walton is joining us. Thank you, Shaman. And with that, I'd like to, before I open it up to questions, I'd like to bring up Rico Hamilton, who is a community activist who has worked in this community for many, many years. He's changed lives, he's saved lives, and he and his team of folks are going to be out there volunteering their time, helping us to get people in this application pool. So Rico, I'd like to bring you up to say a few words.
I'm Rico Hamilton. Thank you very much, President Breed. I'm in the community every single day, and I'm a native to this community and to San Francisco, and dealing with the population that we deal with every single day. They are very much saddened. They are outraged about this denial of the community preference, especially on the federal level when we're dealing with HUD and housing. The community is in disbelief that for all the years, and we know the history that's going on in San Francisco with redevelopment and everything that has happened in the Western Addition, this community is in awe. They don't know what to do. They don't know what else to do. We've been fighting with President Breed, with the NAACP, and all the people that are behind me, and we're still trying to figure it out. We're going to stand with President Breed and the NAACP until everything is settled. We're not going to stop. We're going to make sure that we get our seniors and our families in this community housing. I'm a native here. I can't even afford to live here. I work in this community. I might be technically homeless. I'm not on anybody's lease. No, seriously, right? So we have a lot more families who are like that, who are not on anyone's lease, and if anything happened, most likely they'll be in somebody's shelter. So we're going to fight as a community member, and I'm speaking for the community. We're standing with President Breed and the NAACP, and we're going to make sure that whatever we can do to get people into these housing, we will do it.
Thank you. So with that, let me just wrap it up by saying, again, neighborhood preference in the city and county of San Francisco exists. It will continue to exist, especially in those projects that build on-site affordable housing as they were required to do under current city law. And it is happening as we speak at 55 Laguna, which I'm really excited about. So we have some victories, but in this particular case, with the federal government making bureaucratic decisions, I reject this decision. This community rejects this decision. We're going to continue to fight to get the changes that we deserve and need in order to roll back the clock and do what this community needs to be done. Bold steps, creative policies, changes to what is happening now. We don't want to talk anymore. We want action. We want housing.
Yes,
and that's what this is about. And we're going to fight tooth and nail to make sure that we get it. So that's why we're here. We want to thank everybody for coming.